Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm Asher. Welcome to Flexible Dieting Consultants. This is day one of the Pantry Macro Challenge. All right, welcome to the first video, the first of 7 for the Pantry Macro Challenge, where I'm going to take you through how I hit my macros for a day, each day for a whole week, with only what I have in my refrigerator and what I have in my pantry. I'll take you through what I have, and then I'll show you how I go about, estimating out what I'm going to need for the day, and then backfilling with some snacks to hit my macros. But important to note, these are all foods that I chose to buy. I'm going to show you how I take foods that I like, foods that I enjoy, and fit them into my macros. It's very sneaky. Alright, so here we go. Here's what I got in my refrigerator right now. So just going across the top, I've got some peanut sauce. That stuff's awesome. Got some sour cream, probably won't use a whole lot of that. This is my micronutrient drink. Not too much else to deal with here. I've got eggs, and then a few, maybe about a dozen on deck down below here. I got coconut rice that I made earlier this week. I've got black beans, which we'll get to when we get to the pantry. I've got a little non-fat Greek yogurt, which is about to go bad, so I'm going to try to figure out how to use that within the next few days. I've got some super lean, extra lean ground beef from Trader Joe's, so I'll definitely be using that in the next few days. Here's my my prepared shredded chicken. I've got a little bit of flank steak left over, and then really awesome here is I've got all sorts of olives that my parents brought back from the Middle East, from Amman, Jordan. So I'll definitely try to hit some fats with those. Got some vegetables down here. Not too much in here besides my my Indian spice collection. A little bit of reduced calorie syrup, and I've actually got some Bolthouse Farms. So any of you looking for a lower calorie salad dressing, Bolthouse Farms is awesome. They pretty much just take out the mayonnaise that goes into salad dressings, and then they replace it with Greek yogurt. So if you look at the macros here, they're very friendly. For a 2 tablespoon serving, you only got 2.5 grams of fat, 1 gram of sugar. So this is a great way for you salad lovers to use salad dressings and not kill your fat content. All right, the pantry. So this is obviously where I'm going to get most of my carbs for the 7-day challenge. Not probably too different than many of your pantries. I've got regular pasta. I got my rices. I got some hippie stuff here. I got some quinoa and some lentils, I believe. Got different types of oats. Black beans. So I buy them dried. And then soak them overnight. This removes some of the, if you look in the cans, they got a ton of sodium content and some some weird preservatives that make them taste sort of weird. So I actually use the dry ones, and I just like those a lot better. So I'll show you how to use those for breakfast sometime. I've got the 100-calorie bags of popcorn. Usually have one of those more or less every day. Coming to the bottom here, a bunch of miscellaneous stuff in this drawer. Probably won't use a whole lot of that stuff. I don't know, we'll see. Things get low. And then I've got sort of my secondary pasta pile. Got some hippie pastas. So I've got some quinoa pasta. I've got some whole wheat pasta, which is really gross. I think I got some egg noodles. Got a lot of ramen. Oh, this is, so any of you that like ramen and are counting macros, you'll notice that these are actually alarmingly high in fat. So there's 2 servings for one ramen noodle, and you got 7 grams of fat. So for a lot of us, 14 grams of fat, assuming you eat the whole thing, it's going to be like a quarter, to a third of your fat. The problem is here, if you look at the ingredients for the noodle, vegetable oil. So that's where they're squeezing the fat into here. So a little trick that I do is I actually discard the noodles and keep the packet, and then I buy the noodles on the side, and these don't have any fat. So combine these two. It's obviously a little bit more expensive to do that, but you can enjoy your ramen noodles and enjoy your college days without loading a bunch of fat into your diet. Last couple things here. Got some hamburger helper and a couple soups. Likely won't use those. Got some boxed soups and a little bit of tuna. So if things are getting tight towards the end of the week, running out of meat, probably lean on the tuna to get through the remainder of the week. All right, so that's it. I don't have anything too wild or too crazy. It's probably very similar to the refrigerators a lot of you have. Same sort of dry goods that you have in your pantries, but I'm gonna make a go at it for the next 7 days. So when I'm planning out my macros for their day, or for, if I'm bulk cooking for a week, I pretty much lay out what the structure of the main meals are going to be, and then fill everything back in, with the snacks and the post-workout shakes, the late night snacks, to fill in, the remainder of my macros. So generally, I'm bulk cooking, some sort of chicken, some sort of lean beef, and then preparing some sort of carbohydrate source, for the main structure of my lunch and my dinner. And then for breakfast, I'm a lot less consistent with what I eat for breakfast. I just go in phases. Sometimes I'm making pancakes with low calorie syrup. Sometimes I'm doing the oatmeal thing. Sometimes I just, I'm on an egg streak, whatever it is. So breakfast ends up being the wild card one, but my lunch and dinner are pretty consistent with what I've prepared in advance with bulk cooking. So I usually cook for a minimum of 3 days. I've gone out as long as 6 days in the past. I wouldn't recommend that. I found, if I make 10 meals, so I'm preparing on Sunday for Monday through Friday, by the time I get to the 7th or 8th meal, I'm just done with whatever I've cooked. So I've scaled that back, and usually I'm making, 3 days at a time, and then actually adding maybe a twist to half the batch, just so I get a little bit of variability. I'm not just eating, dried out chicken on Friday, that I made days ahead of time, and I'm just disgusted with that. So what I did for this is, and I guess there's a couple other things that I didn't mention when I was going through the pantry and the refrigerator. I got another shelf where I've got like peanut butter and oils, and then my supplements, protein powder, a little bit of Gatorade powder, fish oils, creatine, things like that. So I will include those in my macros. But so for the jumping into my meals, I'm going to use that shredded chicken, and for my lunch and dinner, and then that coconut rice also for one meal. And then just to make it a little bit variable, I'm going to cook some pasta for the dinner meal. For breakfast, I'm going to go with a combination of eggs and black beans, so I'll briefly talk about that. It's one of my favorite breakfasts. And then I've weaved in some snacks as well to get the remainder of my macronutrients. Some popcorn, obviously, I like that every night. I've got like half an apple in here, about 100 grams, and protein shake, which should get me to the finish line. So here's my breakfast. I've got 2 eggs, I've got my micronutrient drink, and I've got the soaked and boiled black beans. So the way I use this is I'll take, depending on however many servings of beans I'm using, I think I'm using 1 serving here, I'm going to add it to a saute pan with some water and bring it up to a heavy simmer, and then I'm going to crack 2 eggs on top of it. Once the liquid is reduced down to enough to where you've almost got porridge, I'm going to crack the 2 eggs on top, cover it, and poach the eggs in there. One of my favorite breakfasts. I like black beans. It works well with the eggs, and then you get the runny yolks, mixed in with the black beans. It makes a good breakfast. Here's my micronutrient drink. I'll make a video on that in the future. It's really easy. I go to the grocery store and I try to hit different colors on the rainbow, whatever is on sale, and then I throw it in a Vitamix with a little bit of water and blend it up. So I made 6 servings of this earlier in the week. This is my last one. So for tomorrow and the remainder of the challenge, I'll be using a green powder supplement that I got from Trader Joe's as a not as great way, but just a way to get my micronutrients for the week. So for lunch, I'm going to have shredded slow cooker chicken and coconut rice. Here's the rice I used. I used a virgin coconut oil. I'd recommend this. The regular coconut oil doesn't taste like anything, and actually, unless you got really good olive oil, it's got a real buttery, rich olive taste. I actually much prefer virgin coconut oil. I just think it has an awesome flavor. So I pretty much primarily use this. So I use 5 grams of this, 5 grams of fat for every serving of sushi rice. when you make it, and I use the rice cooker. Wash the rice until it's the water's clear. Cook your rice with with a pinch of salt. I add the fat after, so I wait till the rice is cooked and then I fluff it with that. If you put the fat in with the cooking, you just end up with a mushy mess. So you actually want this as sort of a coating on the rice. So when you reheat it, you almost end up with a little bit of a fried rice. And then this is just I think for gift for Christmas, I got a box of different Indian spices. One other thing on the chicken. I use the slow cooker to when I bulk cook chicken. Now, if I was going to have just one meal, grilled chicken is much better. That's the best way to eat chicken. After that, probably maybe like pan saute, and then probably it's neck and neck with the slow cooker or with baking. Why I like the slow cooker is because it retains more moisture than the other one. So with grilling, the moment you go above 165, you're exponentially going to dry out the chicken. So yeah, it's great when you're eating your first meal of grilled chicken. It becomes cardboard days 2, 3, and so forth. So and then if you're going to grill and you really want to bulk cook with grilling, make sure you take the chicken off at 160 degrees. It will come up to 165, so you don't have to worry about salmonella. But the higher you go with the internal temperature, I see some people grill chicken to death on the grill. It's going to be so bad, it's going to be so chewy, there's going to be no moisture left in it. So that's why I use the slow cooker. It almost behaves like the technique braising. So for dinner, I'm going to have 2 servings of this hippie pasta, which is made with brown rice and quinoa. This is a much better option than the whole wheat pasta. It tastes a lot better. It's a lot closer to the real thing. Just got a commercial brand sauce, and then I've got some Parmesan cheese, and then my slow cooker chicken. So this is actually, I could go on a whole spiel about. Actually, I guess I just will. The food revolution in America has just been nothing short of amazing. So I started working in kitchens when I was 14, washing dishes. So this was like the mid '90s, and then as probably by the time I was 18, that's when I first started watching the first Food Network shows and really getting to cooking and buying cookbooks. But back then, there was nothing commercial you could buy in a jar that was any good. So you had for pasta sauce, you had Prego, and then I think Classico was introduced, and they're both disgusting. Like it's awful. There was such a widespread between the quality of what you could make at home, with a 30-minute cooking technique versus what you get in the jar. A lot of that's changed. So you can't replicate a homemade sauce with a commercial sauce, but they've gotten really close. They've really closed the gap. So not all of them, Prego and Classico, and a lot of those still suck. But some of them are awesome. So there's a grocery store in our town called Lucky's, and then we've also got a Trader Joe's. You can find some commercial pastas that are 75-80% as good as what you can make at home. So it's just identifying a couple of those. But it's been so awesome how the food revolution in America has made food that tastes good a lot more available than it was in the dark, dreary 90s. So this has actually become one of my favorites recently. So I used 2 servings of the hippie pasta, about 70 grams of the sauce. So what I do is obviously I get the water boiling for the pasta. I aggressively salt the water, add the pasta. In the meantime, I've been using, so for 2 servings of this, I've been using 70 grams of the pasta sauce. So about 3/4 of a serving, just enough to coat the noodle. And then along with some cheese. So I that 70 grams, I'll coat the bottom of a smaller saute pan. Once the pasta's almost done with a little bit of bite, I'll take a little bit of the pasta water, add it to the sauce. As that's thickening, I'll drain the pasta. I'll add the pasta, so the last 45 seconds to a minute of the cooking of the pasta is actually going to be in the sauce, and then the cooking liquid's going to bind the sauce to the pasta, and then as I'm taking it off the heat, I'll add 1 ounce of Parmesan cheese. But for everything but commercial, and I don't have to do any legwork, this has quickly become one of my favorite little go-tos. It's good on macros, and then I'm also having some shredded chicken with this, but again, this is just one of my favorites. I think just introducing meat to this would make it not as good, so sometimes simpler is better. So I'll eat the chicken on the side. Alright, so I was short 32 protein, 65 carb, 25 fat. I'll show you how I accomplished that. So I've got my 100 calorie bag of popcorn, which I have one of those every night. My post-workout shake, which I have, which was the first video I made, 20 grams of Gatorade and a serving of whey. And then I was short fat and a little bit of carbohydrate. So these are actually the wild cards here. Here I've got the additional stuff that I would have plugged in. I've got the fish oil, BCAAs, and gummies, fiber, and vitamin D. So to make up the difference, I think it was 50 grams of olives and 100 grams of apple. So that's it. That's day one of the Pantry Challenge. That's what I'm going to eat to hit my macros. I think the important thing to note there is these are all foods I chose to buy. So I didn't get some sort of cookie cutter diet from a bro coach, and then I went out and bought a bunch of foods that I normally wouldn't eat. This is all stuff I normally eat anyway. Some of it is to conform to a healthier lifestyle, but I enjoy all these foods, so there's not going to be any painful meals involved. You can do likewise. You just got to make sure that you're hitting your macronutrient goals, and then you're hitting your macros for the day. Other than that, it's just up to you to figure out what works best for you to hit your macros. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of the Macro Pantry Challenge.